And I got the NBA on my mind. I got the NBA on my mind, not just because of the 75th or all 75 team. The NBA's on top 75 players, but I still have not recovered from that god-awful slam dunk contest that I witnessed Saturday night. I needed to get something on my mind, so I had to summon my man Ryan Clark to come into the house. My Libra brother from another mother. I had to call my boy to get me veered away from this kind of stuff, to get my mind back right. If anybody can help me get my mind back on the right track, it is my man RC, my Libra brother, the one and only Ryan Clark. And by the way, before I say hello, I just want to let you know, RC, I'm saying hello from Miami. South Beach is right down the block, just in case you haven't noticed. Life is pretty nice this morning. It's just the weather, the warmth,
That's why you're so happy.
Does something for you. That's right. That's right. That's right. I'm still in South Beach for another few hours. There is a God. Yes. First take in the house. Let's go.
Basketball coach Juwan Howard suspended 5 games, the remainder of the regular season, and fined $40,000 for hitting Wisconsin assistant Joe Krabenhoff in the face after Sunday's game, the Big Ten Conference, announcing that on Monday, Wisconsin coach Greg Gard fined $10,000 for violating the conference's sportsmanship policy, but not suspended, while Krabenhoff is not expected to receive punishment. Juwan Howard releasing the following statement. After taking time to reflect on all that happened, I realized how unacceptable both my actions and words were and how they affected so many. I'm truly sorry. I'm offering my sincerest apology to my players and their families, my staff, my family, and the Michigan fans around the world. I would like to personally apologize to Wisconsin's assistant coach, Joe Krabenhoff, and his family, too. Lastly, I speak a lot about being a Michigan man and representing the University of Michigan with class and pride. I did not do that, nor did I set the right example for the right way for my student athletes. I will learn from my mistake, and this mistake will never happen again. No excuses. JJ, good to see you, sir. How we doing?
I'm great.
Good.
I'm
All right.
great.
Let's get right to it. Do you agree with the 5 games for Howard?
I think that's fair. Look, I don't think he should have lost his job. I don't think he should have been suspended for the season. But there had to be some sort of punishment for this. It's completely unacceptable what he did, and I think his statement is spot on. And this is a failure in leadership. And you saw the after effect of what happened when his players started behaving in an aggressive way.
Following suit.
Right. So this is a failure of leadership. He shouldn't have been suspended for the season. He should not have lost his job. I think 5 games is perfectly fair.
Stephen A.?
Well, a couple of things. J.J. Redick, I want to applaud you for continuing to do a great job on television. Thank you so much for being here, but let me give you a little, just a technical note. I know Molly's sitting next to you, but when you're talking to her instead of me, the audience sees the side of your head, okay? So you want
He gets very jealous. He needs all the attention always.
J.J. Redick, that's number one. I understand Molly's a lot easier to look. She's a lot easier to look at than me. I get it.
Talk to the producers. I'm looking at you now. I'm looking. I'm locked in. I'm locked in.
But before I give you my take, in all seriousness, I got to ask you this question. And I know that you're not excusing what Juwan Howard did. Why are you of the position that he didn't deserve to be suspended for the rest of the season?
Well, he mushed a guy. Okay. He mushed a guy.
Okay.
It wasn't exactly a punch. Had he thrown a punch in the handshake line, I think we'd be having a different conversation. But he put his hands on someone. So the act itself is what I'm referring to. I don't think the act itself is warranting a season-long suspension or a fire.
Okay. Let me give you my answer to you and Jay Williams as well, because this is how I genuinely feel. I believe he deserved to be suspended for the rest of the season. I'm ecstatic that he was not fired. I think he's a good man. He's a good brother. He's never represented himself in this way before, and people make mistakes, and he's done far more good than bad ever since we've known him from his days as a Fab Five member. He's a beautiful person, and I love him dearly, and I'm happy that he did not lose his job, okay? But I do believe, and I'm happy that on a personal level that he only got these 5 games. But if they had suspended him for the rest of the season, I could not have said a word because I think it would have been entirely and completely justified. Here is the part that I think you, Jay Williams, and everybody's missing. We're not letting Greg Card off the hook. He deserved to be suspended for a game, okay? Because, again, he grabbed the coach clearly knowing that the coach didn't want to talk to you. He didn't grab the coach to hit him. He didn't grab the coach to start a fight. He grabbed the coach to try to explain to him and talk to him. But nevertheless, the kind of mood that Juwan Howard was in, just let it go, speak to him after the game, et cetera, et cetera. You played a role in this stuff being exacerbated. We got that. Juwan Howard swung at another coach. It's not whether it was a punch or a slap. It's what it caused thereafter.
Was it a swing?
Even if he had punched, let me explain.
Was it a swing, though?
He swung. It definitely was a swing. It wasn't a punch.
But it wasn't a close. It wasn't a
And he
close
went for
swing.
his face. I mean, we can watch it again, but
We can watch it again, but it was definitely a swing. It was
Okay.
what I'm saying is this. Even if he had punched the coach and it didn't affect the coach at all and he had reacted the same way, what I'm saying to you is the bigger issue is what ensued after. The fact that it was damn near a melee that took place is the issue. And where I wanted to point out to you and Jay Williams is this. We're talking about guard touching him. You know what we're not talking about? The assistant coach who didn't touch him. That's who you swung on. Like, why? I mean, I'm sure he might have said something or whatever, but the fact of the matter is, in a strange kind of way, it almost would have been more understandable if you swung at guard because that's who your ire was aimed at. You were disgusted with his decision to call a timeout, to stop the game instead of letting it just go on when you had a double-digit lead and it was less than 10 seconds left. It would have made more sense and just swung on him. You actually swung on an assistant coach who didn't touch you, who didn't put his hands on you. So what I'm saying is when you take that into account, combine that with the fact of the near melee that took place with two players getting suspended because they ended up throwing punches and what have you, and how ugly that was and could have ended up being. That's where my position is, that I'm happy he got just the 5 games, but I would have understood if he got suspended for the rest of the season. And I was petrified that he was going to get something that he did not deserve, which was to be fired. I was scared Michigan was going to fire him because prior to yesterday's show, I got word that they were having meetings and contemplating firing him. And I hope that wasn't true. I was praying that that wasn't true, and it ended up not being true.
Absolutely. And I'm sure this will be an isolated incident. Let's leave it here, guys. And I want to get to the NBA. So, an NBA released their 75th anniversary team earlier this season. ESPN made a complete ranking of the list, led by the 2 players most often in the greatest of all time debate. That would be Michael Jordan, number 1, followed by LeBron at 2. LeBron's agent and longtime friend, Rich Paul, had some interesting comments to The Athletic recently, saying the road for LeBron was just as hard, if not harder, than the road was for Michael for a number of reasons. And I think the biggest reason is everyone wants you to do something the way somebody else did it previously. LeBron was a kid. The media wanted LeBron to be like Mike. They wanted Michael to speak to them in any capacity, which he probably didn't. They wanted Michael to be his friend, which he probably wasn't. They also wanted LeBron to act like, be like Michael, and he was not. Stephen A., who had the harder path, LeBron or MJ?
I'll always say MJ. I'm a bit older than JJ Redick. Obviously I look it, although I think I look younger than I am.
You look
but
great.
I definitely am old. I definitely am old school to the core. I think about the road to prosperity that Michael Jordan had to travel. I think about what the 76ers were in the 80s, what Boston was in the 80s, what the Lakers were in the 80s. And although Michael Jordan didn't win a title, the road that he had to travel to ultimately ascend to the point that he got to once the 90s rolled around says a lot to me. I think that LeBron James, it's not his fault, but NBA rule changes had changed drastically from the bad boy Pistons to the New York Knicks with Anthony Mason and Charles Oakley and all of these guys and what have you. And so I just look at it from that perspective, and I think about what Michael Jordan had to endure because of the physicality of the game, the rules that were allowed, some of the things that they did in terms of hand checking and all this stuff, but just the physicality that they allowed overall. And I say to myself, LeBron, and the opponents, by the way, as well, and I say LeBron didn't have that issue. When I think about, I'm not talking about the finals, because I understand LeBron wanted to get the Spurs on at least 3 occasions in 2007 and then back-to-back years when he was in Miami. Oklahoma City was young, but you still had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden. I think about Dallas with just Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Kidd, Jason Terry, and those boys. Yeah. And then, of course, the Golden State Warriors when we look at it. But I'm just of the mindset that physicality played a very, very significant role in terms of what the NBA was allowing, the kind of things that were going on. And I view it from that perspective, and that's why I come to the conclusion that the road was tougher for Michael Jordan.
Stephen A., I grew up watching Michael, and I think it's him and LeBron. I completely agree with this list. And I also, to a degree, agree with what Rich is saying, his sentiment here. And I'll tell you why. Because each generation of greatness raises the bar for the next generation. And so Michael's following in the footsteps of Kareem, of Wilt, of Bill Russell, of Larry, of Magic. And then Michael set the bar so high. And if anyone has come close to that bar,
it's LeBron.
It's LeBron. Okay?
And Kobe. And Kobe.
Well, can I share a story real quick? Story time?
Sure.
Real quick?
Go ahead.
All right.
Sure.
So 2001, I had the opportunity to play in Colorado Springs in the USA Basketball Youth Development Festival. This is during the finals. So, we're watching Lakers, Kobe, Shaq versus the 76ers. It was my first time playing against LeBron. He was on the North squad. I was on the East squad. And I remember we were in the dorms in Colorado Springs after this week of basketball was over. And we were going around, what are we going to take back from this camp? What are we going to go tell our friends when we leave? And my homie Sean Dockery, who went to Duke with me, he said, I'm going to go back to Chicago and I'm going to tell everyone I just saw the best basketball player ever. And when you think about what he said, I've thought of this moment so many times in my life. We were 16 years old. We were 16 when Sean said that. And he wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong. Like, LeBron, if it's not Michael, it's LeBron. And LeBron, because of the amount of media pressure, the expectations. I mean, we talk about Kobe being sort of this bridge, right, between MJ and LeBron. But what LeBron has done, he's exceeded every single level of expectation we could ever place on him. Michael set the bar so high, okay? And LeBron has at least reached that bar, at least reached the bar. And so for me, I agree with Rich. I'm not saying Michael's path wasn't hard or LeBron's path hasn't been hard. But what he's saying is he had to follow Michael, and he's done it.
Okay. Well, let me respond to that, because I love the way you broke that down, and I appreciate the level of expertise, because it just forces me to elevate my game when I'm sitting here debating with you about this, Mr. J.J. Redick. Fair enough in terms of the greatness of LeBron. Here's the part where I get upset at the Rich Pauls of the world, the Maverick Carters of the world, even LeBron James himself of the world. The game of basketball started in 1946, officially became the NBA in 1950. There's been tens of thousands of players in the NBA throughout history. I have one man above LeBron James, and that's Michael Jordan. And you would think that I said the bro is a scrub. You understand? I've got friends I won't talk to because one ignorant dude out of Detroit, whose name I refuse to mention, he don't even have LeBron as his top 10, but he swears he knows basketball. See, I can't listen to him because even though I know he knows basketball, that's just ignorant to not have LeBron James as the top 10 player of all time. I got him number 2 all time, okay? Now, to have him number 2, let's dissect who I'm putting him above. To accentuate J.J. Redick's point, I got a 19-time All-Star, 6-time league MVP, a 6-time champion in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I got LeBron ahead of him. I've got an 11-time champion in 13 years in Bill Russell. I have LeBron ahead of him. I have Wilt Chamberlain, who once averaged 50 points in a season, once scored 100 points in a game, and a career 22 rebound per game center, who they had to change the rules for. I got LeBron James ahead of him. I have a 5-time champion in Magic Johnson, the greatest point guard in history. I got LeBron ahead of him. I got a 5-time champion in Kobe. I got LeBron ahead of him. I mean, the list just goes on and on. No matter who you put up there, I got LeBron ahead of all of them. The debate is LeBron versus Jordan, not LeBron's greatness. No one's bringing into question his greatness, the road he had to travel to prosperity, all of this stuff. We all get it. But when we compare him to Jordan, we have to take into account what the Eastern Conference was for many, many years that he went to those 10 NBA Finals. We have to take into account the game and how it was played in Jordan's day compared to how it's been played in LeBron's day. We also have to take into account, J.J. Redick, 6 NBA Finals losses. He won 4 chips, but he lost 6. And oh, by the way, you do have critics, not me, because I'm not one of those guys.
Yeah, but Stephen A, he
dragged
dragged some of those Cleveland teams to the finals. Come on,
totally
look
agree.
at those rosters, man.
No
he
argument.
dragged those teams to the finals.
No argument.
Put LeBron on your
did
team,
it.
you got a chance to win a
2007 he
championship.
did it. Hold it, 2007 he did it. He had
2018?
Kyrie and Kevin Love in the last 3 times he was in Cleveland. So let's be clear.
No, he didn't have
about
not in 18. Not in 18. Kyrie was on the Celtics.
No,
and
Kyrie,
I'm
sorry. Not
in
18, not Kyrie.
But
in 18.
I want to say one thing real quick. I want to say one thing.
Sure.
The GOAT debate is absolutely, to me, LeBron or MJ. And
yes.
I'm not going to say one is greater than the other. To me, I grew up with, watching Michael. I played against LeBron. Like, it's 1A, 1B, whatever you want to say. The question itself, I want to address this real quick. There's not an easy road, period, to become an icon or a legend.
Easier.
It's extremely difficult either way. And we get into this comparing eras. Like, LeBron had to beat the greatest regular season of all time, the greatest team in the regular season of all time in 2016, down 3-1. Does that qualify as difficult? Does that qualify as difficult?
Yes, but remember, you remember who you're talking to now. I'm the guy who believes that Adam Silver in the NBA gave LeBron James the modern day stimulus package when they suspended Draymond Green for Game 5, and then Bogut and Iguodala got hurt in that Game 5, and then they were never the same, and Iguodala wasn't available, who was a big time defender, an elite defender at that particular moment in time, and then Draymond ultimately came back for Game 6 and 7. Remember, I'm that guy. And also, you also have to remember this. We do have to take moments into consideration, because when you're parsing it and you're really dissecting it, JJ, you got to take into account moments. Think about what happened. I know that all the LeBron supporters don't want to bring this up, but we saw what he was in Dallas before he ever won the title, when he went against Dallas in those fourth quarters. You can't say nothing like that about MJ. You can't do it. I'm allowed to look at stuff like that. So are you. And we can take it any way we want to, but those moments, because you need those moments to draw the comparison, because everything else is so sublime, so surreal, so big time, that you can't go to anything else but those moments to really dissect and separate between the two in terms of what you got inside of your chest naturally, or what you had to gather, what you had to build. Those are the kind of things that people look at when they compare the two. It's just a fact.
Yeah, it's a fair point when you bring up the 2011 finals. It's a fair point. We saw that. Dwayne Wade was Batman in that series, and LeBron was Robin. There's no question there. And to my recollection,
was
I never
Jordan
witnessed.
Ever Robin?
I never witnessed. It's a fair point. I never witnessed that. But in terms of, like, I disagree with you on this, like what somebody's got inside. Like, let's think about LeBron's background. Let's think about the amount of pressure he had on him as a teenager. The level of expectation, how he's delivered beyond that. He's got a lot in here, man. You can say something great about Michael without questioning LeBron's heart. Come on.
I'm not questioning it now. I'm applauding him for what he matured and grew into.
Okay.
But we can't ignore the moment that happened. JJ, you've seen this before. We've seen shooters, for example, guys who can really shoot. And then the big moments come, palms get sweaty. They start shivering a little bit, and the level of poise and intestinal fortitude that a JJ might have, or a Steph might have, or a Clay might have, they might not have. We're allowed as basketball fans, viewers, aficionados, whatever you want to call us, to look at that and say, that might separate this guy. When you looked at Bird, remember the three-point shooting contest? Bird walked into the locker room. Who's coming in second place today? There's something to be said for that.
So what are you saying, Stephen A? What are you saying? That Jordan has more than LeBron? Is that what you're saying? And that capacity?
Earlier in his, what LeBron developed, because LeBron has it now, but what LeBron developed into, Jordan walked in with that kind of attitude. It's just that he didn't have the help to go up against what he had to go up against. But Jordan was never Robin.
Yeah.
Jordan never had to leave Pat Riley and D. Wade to elevate himself to that point. That didn't happen for Michael Jordan. He didn't have that luxury.
Stephen A., when we talk about the harder road, though, to the question and to Rich's comments, we have to take into account. Look, we have to take this into account. Michael took a year and a half off. He didn't play basketball for a year and a half. We have to take that into account. I just want to correct one thing, and it's a minor point, but basketball did not start in 1946. It started much later or earlier than that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, you just said basketball started in 1946. I didn't want.
Got it.
Okay,
all
right.
So the NBA. All right.
All right, we good, guys? We're going to have much more on this.
It's all good.
On this NBA 75 team later, because I understand you both have some issues with the list, so we will get into that. When we come back here on First Take, JJ sticking around. Zion is yet to play a minute for the Pelicans this season. What's really going on with the big fella in the Big Easy? We'll tell you what his new teammate, right foot, which may require a second surgery, has not played a minute for the Pelicans this season. There appears to be a disconnect between Zion and the Pelicans organization. CJ McCollum says he still hasn't spoken to Zion since being traded to New Orleans. I haven't had conversations with him directly. I've spoken with some people close to him and look forward to sitting down with him sooner than later. I know about as much as you do right now, but I'm getting to the bottom of it. JJ, is this something or nothing?
Oh, this is definitely something. Actually, this is a little bit insane to me. There's a general sort of decorum of behavior that you should apply as a teammate. Look, I wasn't the best player on any team I was on, but if there was a buyout possibility, if there was a trade possibility, I would always reach out to team. I called Ersan Ilyasova, I called Marco, I called Wes Matthews trying to get him to come to Philly. Like, this just shows a complete lack of investment in your team, in the organization, in the city. I get that he's hurt and away from the team, but you just traded for one of the 50 best players in the league, a guy that's supposed to be paired with you. Reach out and say hello. This is a pattern of behavior with Zion that we are seeing again and again. And look, I was his teammate. I can describe him as a detached teammate. That is an accurate statement. This is basic level of humanity being a teammate. Send a text to a guy when he gets traded to your team. That is just normal behavior. That's the bar minimum that you have to do. And the Pelicans yesterday sent out an email for season tickets for next year. Guess who wasn't in the email? Whose name was not in the email? Zion's. Like, what the heck is going on in New Orleans, Stephen A.?
They don't have you. They don't have somebody like you. That's number one, to answer your question directly. And just in the interest of full disclosure, while Molly is sitting here on the air and we're on national television, I've always had a lot of love and respect for J.J. Redick. Mm-hmm. The reason I say that up is because I remember one time he was with the Philadelphia 76ers and it was all playful or whatever, but he disagreed with a take. Little did I know that we'd be on the air together disagreeing on takes in the future. But J.J. Redick disagreed with a take that I had, Molly, and I don't remember what exactly it was about, but he jumped on me, and then Ben Simmons and others came along and they jumped on me. But they had something to say and they came up to me and they said it. You see what I'm saying? And then I had to go on the air the next day and be like, they had a point. You know what I'm saying? It makes sense. And it's just about the level of professionalism and decorum and just being men that you're speaking to that I've always respected, because I'm the type of person that if I say something publicly that's wrong and you show me that I'm wrong, I'm not going to apologize privately. I'll go on the air and acknowledge in that same public platform that I was wrong. And I just think that there's something to be said about professional decorum. And I think to some degree that's what you're talking about here, but you also are talking about an extra level of something, which is decency. You're absolutely right, J.J. Redick. There is no disagreement here, but I'm going to elaborate a little bit more extensively on the point than you did by saying this. All Zion Williamson is doing is showing you that he don't want to be there. And David Griffin needs to get with the program. Zion Williamson was praying that he was going to get drafted by the New York Knicks, that the New York Knicks would get the #1 overall pick when they ended up with the 3rd overall pick. He was praying that they were going to get #1 because he wanted to be at the Garden. He never, again, I've heard this, but certainly not from him. I'm not pretending that I have heard this from him, even though I've interviewed him a couple of times and he's never, ever acknowledged that. I get it. But the bottom line is everybody knows he ain't interested in being in New Orleans. I believe if he were interested in being in New Orleans, he'd be on the court. Now, that's not to imply he's faking his injuries or anything like that. It's to sit there and say the incentive matters. If you are incentivized to do something, you will crawl under every rock. You will turn over every rock. You will dot every T. You will cross every T. You will dot every I. You would do whatever it takes to get on the court. That's not what we're seeing from Zion Williamson. And if you're David Griffin, guess what? You know what? Alvin Gentry was once your coach, he's gone. Stan Van Gundy was once your coach, he's gone. Now you got Willie Green up in there. It don't matter. What you really, really need to focus on is finding a way to utilize Zion to get assets for him to have people who want to play and want to be professional and want to be there. Because I think behind all of this, JJ, and I don't know, I'm not pretending to know, but I think based on the evidence that you deduce from what we see, I believe that Zion Williamson is sending a message. I don't want to be here. I want you to get me the hell up out of here. Well, and I think that's what that's about.
I said pattern of behavior earlier, and this is now another incident, another example of that pattern of behavior. Yes, he's never publicly come out and said, I don't want to be in New Orleans. But as we know, Stephen A., because we follow the league, where there's smoke, there's fire. And you didn't hear rumors about Giannis being unhappy in Milwaukee? No, you didn't hear that. With Zion, you've heard that now for the last 3 years. And I want to be very clear on something, too, by the way. You talk about me not being there. This is something I addressed with Zion in front of the team, okay? So this is going back to his rookie year. There's a responsibility that you have as an athlete when you play a team sport to be fully invested. You're fully invested in your body, you're fully invested in your work, and you're fully invested in your teammates. That is your responsibility. And we have not seen that from Zion. Yes, he's been amazing when he's been on the court, 100%. Yeah. He's amazing to watch. There's no one that can do what he does on a basketball court. There isn't. There isn't. The sheer level of force and athleticism and skill, it's amazing. 100%. But as a teammate, there's a pattern of behavior. As a fully invested individual in New Orleans, there is a pattern of behavior. This is worrisome. And I totally agree with you. Like, New Orleans is going to have to make some sort of decision here. We've seen this now for 3 years.
JJ deserves the last word on that, Molly, because he's 1,000% correct. I don't disagree with a single word that he just said.
Absolutely. Well said, and we'll continue to follow it for sure. JJ, thank you so much for being with us. Yep. We will see you again soon. When we come back here on First Take, is that bad man leaving Lambeau? At least that's what it looks like after Aaron Rodgers' cryptic IG. For First Take coming up, is Aaron Rodgers saying goodbye to Lambeau? Wait till you see his cryptic IG pose. You know, Stephen A. and Ryan Clark have plenty to say on that. Plus, the NBA 75 team was honored All-Star Weekend. So with that being said, can LeBron ever catch MJ as the GOAT? Let's just say we're not seeing eye to eye on that. Surprise, surprise. Good day. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take. RC, it's been a minute. Good to see you as always, sir. Stephen A.
Good to see you.
What am I going to call you? South Beach Steve. South Beach Steve. How are you doing out there? Are you good?
They do call me the mayor of South Beach. I do have an official key to the city.
Who's they?
I haven't. Well, they gave me an official key to the city. Excuse me. They gave me an official key.
I need to talk to
Ryan Clark, Molly Kiram. I would remind y'all, I literally have a key to the city given to me by the mayor of South Beach. I have it. It's true.
It's not.
It's on video.
It's not really a key to the city. It's just a big old key. It opens nothing, Stephen A. Like it's definitely more Wade County than Stephen A. South Beach Stephen A.
No. Wade County is the city of Miami, but South Beach belongs to me. Last time I checked, wherever I want to go in South Beach, I can get in. I'm good. It was nice last night. I tell you that. It was nice last night.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. All right, guys, we got a lot to get into. Monica McNutt will be here. JJ Redick standing by. But we begin with that bad man. Stephen A., what's up with your boy? Will he stay or will he go? Aaron Rodgers is everyone talking after this cryptic IG post. It read in part, to the men I got to share the quarterback room with every day. You guys made my day so much fun. I'm so thankful for the daily laughs and stress relief you brought me every week of the year. I love you guys. To the Friday crew, I've loved every moment we got to spend together this year. Your support and love was overwhelming, and I cherish the friendships I have with each of you. To my teammates, past and current, you are the icing on the beautiful cake we call our job, football. The friendships that we have will transcend our collective time in this game, and I'm so thankful for the role that each of you have played in making my life that much better. I love you guys and cherish the memories we've made. Stephen A., you are the icing on the beautiful cake that we call our job here on First Take. I want you to know that you're the icing on the cake. See how I thought he was going to be all serious and get defensive because, you know, he loves him some Aaron Rodgers. Stephen A., I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but it sounds like a goodbye to me. What are you reading into this?
Two things. Number one, it sounds like a goodbye. And number three, I think it's incredibly important that I say this. I do not care. Not even a little bit.
Thank you.
I don't care.
Thank you.
Aaron Rodgers is a phenomenal quarterback. We know how I feel about him. He's a bad man. We know all the things that I have said. But the last time I saw him, he came up conspicuously short in an NFC divisional playoff game against a San Francisco 49er team led by Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't care about inclement weather. It was on your own turf with all of your weapons, with all of the pieces that you had in place, and you came up short for the 11th consecutive season. Let's think about that for a second. We're talking about a multi-time MVP, the reigning two-time league MVP. Aaron Rodgers won the MVP last week or so. Nobody particularly cared. I mean, outside of the ceremony at the NFL, you know, what they celebrated before the Super Bowl, we didn't really care. Because when you're that great, there's more expectations that come with it. And the reality of the situation is that he's come up short. And it doesn't take anything away from his greatness as a talent, because I think that as a talent, particularly when you take into consideration longevity, there has not been a more talented quarterback in the history of football than Aaron Rodgers. But that also means that it's incredibly glaring that you only have one Super Bowl to show for it, and not even a single Super Bowl appearance in the last 11 years. And so when I look at it from that perspective, the fact that all of this news come about, remember the days that we spent talking about Tom Brady? Well, you know why we talked about Tom Brady like that? Because he's a winner. He's 7-time Super Bowl champion. And so him walking away from the game, or even hinting to him walking away from the game, meant something, because we felt like him departing was an incredible loss for all of us, because he personified winning and maneuvering himself to whatever terrain that he had to endure in order to get to the proverbial mountaintop. That's how we looked at him. When we look at Aaron Rodgers, is almost the complete opposite. Phenomenal, great talent, but one that has not been able to close the deal in the last 11 years. And when you look at it from that perspective, the fact that all of this noise has been made about what he might do, I suppose it's newsworthy if he's contemplating retirement, which is what some people are alluding to. But if he's going to continue playing, whether he's in Green Bay or he's somewhere else like San Francisco or whatever, the real news will be when he arrives someplace. If he decides to stay in Green Bay, fine. If he decides to go somewhere else, fine. But all of this stuff percolating leading up to what he might do, I don't even know why it's a damn story. I ain't gonna lie, because I don't care.
Man, you know what? Every now and then, Stephen A., you say something and I say, that is my dog. Because I agree with you 100%. I do not care to try to decipher this cryptic tweet or Instagram message. It does not matter that he mentioned who now is supposedly his ex-fiance. It doesn't matter that he mentioned the Friday crew or the quarterback room. None of that stuff matters, because for 6 months last offseason, we did this exact same thing. It was the exact song and dance. We were trying to figure out what was going on with Aaron Rodgers. Would he retire? Would he leave? Was he going to be traded? Would he hold out? And guess what he did? On the first day of training camp, he was in Wisconsin in a Kevin from the Office t-shirt, and he was a part of the team. And then the year goes on, and he wins the MVP, and he comes up short again. Now, here's what I will say. If Aaron Rodgers does move, if Aaron Rodgers does get an opportunity to play somewhere else, that's a story we talk about, right? Because that's the second chapter where Aaron Rodgers may get to prove to us he's more than what he's been as a winner in Green Bay. But all of this, you know what I call this? If it's South Beach Steve, it's smoke screen Aaron. Because he's trying to make us forget that he fell short to Jimmy Garoppolo. He's trying to make everybody talk about how wonderful he truly is. Let's look at this 4-time MVP winner, a guy that's been to 5 NFC championships, and talk about how great everything's been in Green Bay. Look at him reflecting on all the memories he's had. Don't nobody care about that. What we care about is I walked off the field in February of 2011 at Jerry's World. Mike Tomlin had his arm around my shoulder. And the thing that made me feel okay was I thought to myself, number 12 from the other team will be back in this game again, and he'll be back many more times. And since then, he ain't sniffed it. And that is a failure by him and a failure by the Packers, so it don't matter.
Well, I won't go that far. And here's what I mean by that, RC. He has been to 4 conference championship games since that time. That much you got to. He's been about 4 or 5. He's been there.
And what's his record in those, Stephen?
No. It's 0-4. Don't get me wrong.
Well,
Molly, I do just recall saying I thought I started off my soliloquy by saying the man ain't even been back in the Super Bowl.
Okay,
I mean, I thought I said that, Molly. I didn't
so
say
folks
that.
might have just turned the TV on. So
I didn't say that. Is what I'm trying to say.
For everyone.
My whole point is this. This is the part that I think that we have to pay attention to. When we look at Aaron Rodgers, man, I've been one of those guys that I thought he got a bad rap. You know, I remember when his brother was on The Bachelor and his brother alluded to some things about him.
Yeah.
And people decided to try and talk. That's off base. First of all, his brother shouldn't have been talking about the family business like that. I mean, just because you on The Bachelor. I mean, go ahead and write a book or something. I mean, that'd been different. But you wasn't writing your memoir or something. You was on The Bachelor. You bringing up your brother for. That's number one. And then you got people that talked about he was a bit aloof and all of this other stuff. And I thought that was a bad rap. And when I called him a bad man for those years, I meant it and I still mean it today because I think as a talent, he's the greatest that I've ever seen at the quarterback position. And I personally like the guy. I didn't like how he lied or deliberately deceived with the whole immunized and all of this other stuff when they were talking about the vaccine. I didn't appreciate that. But outside of that, I've always been incredibly fond of Aaron Rodgers. But I have to sit up here on national television and confess, even though I feel very much so that he is that dude, that he is a bad man, RC and Molly, I must take blame for focusing on him being a bad man so much in this respect. Here's the problem. It's allowed him to try to pull off exactly what you said, RC, to make us forget what you didn't do. So, because I'm sticking strictly to football. Aaron Rodgers, I don't care about how awful the special teams were. I don't care about how Matt LaFleur and his staff didn't prepare that special teams all season long. You were horrible all season long, and you never fixed the problem all season long with your special teams. At the end of the day, the San Francisco 49ers scored 13 points, and Aaron Rodgers couldn't get 14 points at Lambeau Field.
Yep.
That is just inexcusable. It is I don't give a damn what anybody says, especially piggybacking off the fact that Tom Brady came into your conference in his first year and won a Super Bowl by beating you in the NFC Championship game on your home turf the year before. You would think that the last thing we have to worry about is Aaron Rodgers and that offense in Green Bay in a game where the opponent only scored 13 points. But you didn't get it done. And so for me, that's why I say what you say, RC, these storylines about Aaron Rodgers, I have to be on Front Street. He don't deserve them. He doesn't deserve them. At this particular moment in time, the only difference between him and Ryan Tannehill is the fact that Ryan Tannehill started off the damn game throwing an interception. That's the only difference, okay? Outside of that, you went home just like Ryan Tannehill went home. I believe it was the same day, if I remember correctly. I think it was the same day it happened to both of them. You went home the same day Ryan Tannehill went home. Same results. And that's a damn shame. That's just a damn shame.
RC, can I just ask you something really quick before you close us out in this segment? And I heard you on Get Up. I know you're on a diet, so you don't want to talk about cake. But is anybody else annoyed by this metaphor? I hate it. That his job's the cake and his teammates are the icing. It's awful. Your teammates should be the cake, if anything.
I didn't know what y'all were talking about. They actually said that?
Literally connected annoying me so much. To my teammates, past and current, you are the icing on the beautiful cake we call our job of football? Like, your teammates are the icing? Are you kidding? Your teammates are the foundation, and the metaphor is just trash.
Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers has gotten to a point where he's extremely free speaking. He's extremely free being himself, which I think everybody should be able to do, right? When you've played as long as he has, when you've been as good as Aaron Rodgers has been, you should no longer have to hide who you truly are. But sometimes it's better to leave things unsaid, at least until they need to be. I still feel like this is Aaron Rodgers in another attempt to do what he did all of last season, which is cover up the shortcomings that he's had. And this is also an opportunity for him to dispel many of the things or many of the perceptions of him outside of the locker room. The bottom line is this. Aaron Rodgers, as Stephen A. says, is a bad man. Of anybody I've ever played, I think he's the most talented and the best quarterback that I've ever looked eye to eye with on the football field. And even with that, there's something about him that has not allowed him to elevate a team to the championship level for the past decade. And in the end, to me, that will be more of his legacy than what he did in the offseason or how tight his spiral was. Aaron Rodgers has come up short over and over again, and that's what we need to be talking about, not his IGs.
And I'll close by saying this.
Sure.
He's acting like a champion. Fine, if we're talking about his history. If we're talking about the last 11 years, that has not been the case. These headlines that are going on right now, some of it is his fault. Obviously, he's willing to speak out or whatever, any way you want to slide it. Maybe he'll show up on the Pat McAfee show again, who, by the way, is doing a good job. But the bottom line is this. He's not the champion. Right now, the champion is Matthew Stafford. Last year, it was Tom Brady. And over the last 11 years, it's been numerous quarterbacks, even Nick Foles, okay? Nobody named Aaron Rodgers has been a champion. And we talking about him with the headlines like, this is a brother that's a champion, and oh, by the way, whoever gets him is going to win the championship.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, Green Bay were the favorites in a lot of people's eyes. They went home.
Yep.
No, facts. All I know is that man is gone. RC will be back with us in just a bit. A lot more to talk about, especially your Steelers. JJ Redick coming in right now. Guys, let's get to the big story. Yes, so much fun. I'm so thankful for the daily laughs and stress relief you brought me every week of the year. I love you guys. To the Friday crew, I loved every moment we got to spend together this year. Your love and support was overwhelming, and I cherish the friendships that I have with each of you. To my teammates, past and current, you are the icing on the beautiful cake that we call our job, football. The friendships that we have will transcend our collective time in this game, and I'm so thankful for the role that each of you have played in making my life that much better. I love you guys, and I cherish the memories we made. Sure sounds like a goodbye to me. RC back here with us. Rye, I'll start with you. Where do you want to see Aaron Rodgers play?
I really don't care, to be honest. I have no wants, right? I either want him to retire or play or make up his mind wherever he wants to be. I think if you're Aaron Rodgers, you have to start looking at the entire picture. If you're Aaron Rodgers, you understand that the NFC is the place that you have to be. You also have to try to figure out that why would you necessarily want out of Green Bay? And whose fault is it that Green Bay hasn't won a championship? In the last 3 years, the Green Bay Packers have won 13 games in the regular season. And they've lost in 2 NFC championships, and they also lost in a division round playoff game. That tells me that that team, as the way it was constructed through its roster, was good enough to win a Super Bowl because it was good enough to get to that point. So if you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers, shouldn't he be enough to elevate you over your opponent? Isn't that what we always said about Tom Brady? Isn't that why Tom Brady is the GOAT? Because when we are playing against good on good, against other teams that are constructed well, against other teams that are coached well, we have the X factor in Tom Brady. And most people, like myself, who have played them both, who has seen them both, who has reported on them both, analyzed them both, thinks that Aaron Rodgers is the more talented dude. And so if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I want to be in Green Bay because Green Bay is the place that is now bending over backwards for me. So a place that he said even gave him a seat at the table, a place that went out and got his friend Randall Cobb, a place that is doing everything that it possibly can to keep him and make him happy. But still, you don't want to be there? Last I checked, yeah, they only gave up 13 points in the divisional round. You couldn't score enough to win. So if I'm Aaron Rodgers, am I looking for a place that gives me a better chance than Green Bay gave me? I don't really see one because of what they'll have to give up to get him. So where do I want to see him play? I really don't give a dang. Where he should want to be is with the Green Bay Packers.
Well, first of all, Ryan Clark, I just think it's important that, you try to calm down just a little bit, control those emotions because you seem to be a bit emotional when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I want you to just calm down, just be cool.
Don't you start that. Don't start that.
The coolness the coolness is important right now. Because Ryan Clark, I got news for you. I'm gonna make you laugh while at the same time you're going to agree with where I'm about to go. Okay? I would tell you I don't give a damn about these storylines right now about Aaron Rodgers, and I'm totally with you. But I know you're meditating on this because you're listening to me clearly because I said you're going to side with me on this one. Mm-hmm. I would like to see Aaron Rodgers go to the San Francisco 49ers for two reasons. Number one would be Kyle Shanahan, because as great as Kyle Shanahan is, and we know him to be as a play caller and what have you, even though we got questions. I'm sorry, we do have questions about him in the fourth quarter of Super Bowls. He was the play caller and the offensive coordinator in Atlanta when they lost a 28-3 lead and ended up losing to the New England Patriots years ago. And he was the head coach in the Super Bowl when they couldn't hold on to a 20-10 lead in the fourth quarter, going up against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. But we know him to be a great coach, a great offensive coordinator. We've lamented the fact that Jimmy G, who is an above-average quarterback, to be fair, might have been the reason that prevented him from winning at least one Super Bowl, okay? So we look at it from that perspective, and we say if Aaron Rodgers was being coached by Kyle Shanahan, along with playing beside Deebo Samuels, all right, and Elijah Mitchell, or George Kittle, just imagine what he could do. It's not to say that you don't have those weapons with Devontae Adams and the crew in Green Bay, but you clearly got some weapons in San Francisco, particularly with that defense. So we learned yet even more about Aaron Rodgers, and we learned something about Kyle Shanahan. But here's where I'm really going to get you to agree with me. Are you ready for this, RC? Are you ready where I'm going?
I'm ready, dog.
It ain't.
Don't you do it.
My wanting Aaron Rodgers in San Francisco has less to do with Aaron Rodgers, even less to do with Kyle Shanahan. But it'll have a hell of a lot to do with Matt LaFleur. Let's find out about him. Because this brother was the offensive coordinator for the 27th ranked offense in the National Football League when he got the job in Green Bay. And everybody want to talk about the job that he's done because they're 13-3 and 13-3 and 13-3-1 again. They want to talk about that when it comes to the Green Bay Packers. I say that's because of Aaron Rodgers. Let's see what Matt LaFleur looks like without Aaron Rodgers. Since we want to blow him up, you got to remember, he was an offensive coordinator in LA one season. He was an offensive coordinator in Tennessee one season. And then after that, this brother gets the job, and we acting like, you got some people out there acting like he the best thing since sliced bread. I would contend Ryan Clark knows a lot about football. I think Ryan Clark knows about leading men. I think he knows about motivation. I think he understands the technical aspects of the game. He's a Super Bowl champion. If Aaron Rodgers were your quarterback, what could you do? And you ain't even coaching.
I'd be dang
And so
happy.
I look at it from that perspective, and I'm like, let's find out. Let's find out if Matt LaFleur is all we think he is, as long as a lot of people. I ain't going to say we, because I got my question marks about the brother. But I'd like to see what he would do without Aaron Rodgers. I'd like to see what Kyle Shanahan would do with an Aaron Rodgers. And I'd like to see what Aaron Rodgers would do with a Kyle Shanahan. The latter two, far less important to me than seeing what Matt LaFleur is without Aaron Rodgers. Floor is yours.
You know what? I think, I think I will agree with you on this. When Matt LaFleur got the job in Green Bay, I was puzzled because of the same thing that you just mentioned. I never watched the Tennessee Titans, whether it was with Marcus Mariota or Ryan Tannehill, or whoever it was playing quarterback at that time. I never really looked at that team as an offensive juggernaut. And actually, that team has gotten better offensively since Matt LaFleur has left. When you think about the things that they've been able to do as an offense, much of that is predicated on the talent of Aaron Rodgers, the talent of Devontae Adams. But there are other pieces on that team, whether it's the MVSs, the Lazards, the Robert Tonyan, that we didn't know much about that seemed to elevate their play. And maybe it was because of the quarterback. Maybe it was because you had a running back like Aaron Jones. And so I would like to see Matt LaFleur. Here's the thing about San Francisco. I actually mentioned early on in the offseason that, actually 2 weeks ago, that San Francisco should go all in on getting another quarterback. Because if Jimmy G wasn't your guy, and if Trey Lance wasn't good enough 3 weeks ago to beat out Jimmy G, I believe you're in trouble this year. Here's the problem with going get Aaron Rodgers. You mentioned Deebo Samuel. You mentioned George Kittle. You mentioned Elijah Mitchell. My estimation or my guess is if you get Aaron Rodgers, a lot of those dudes can't be there. Because if I'm going to give up Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to get Deebo Samuel. If I'm going to give up Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to get these other guys. And so you might get to see Matt LaFleur without him, but you may not get to see Aaron Rodgers with everything that's in San Francisco.
No problem.
And that's why he should stay put, and San Francisco would do the same.
No problem with that, but we talk in fantasy to some degree. He counts $46.1 million against the cap. He could end up going even if he stayed. How you going to keep Devontae Adams? We take all of that into consideration. I recognize that. I'm just saying, when you look at a roster and you fantasize, for example, where should someone be? What would you like to see? I'm saying I would like to see him with that, and I'd like to see if Matt LaFleur is Matt LaFleur without him.
Why do you hate him so much, man?
I don't hate him. I don't hate him. I don't hate him. The man doesn't like the way I pronounce his name, so I tried to be respectful and call his name out. But when that man took the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands in the NFC Championship game on a fourth down, I was done. I said, I don't want to hear anything about him. When I saw Mr. Jordan Love get no love against Kansas City because Aaron Rodgers was out that game and they could barely score 7 points, I didn't want to hear anything. It ain't like he's a defensive coach like Fangio in Denver that ultimately became a head coach. No, he was an offensive coordinator that became a head coach, and against Kansas City at a time where their defense was struggling, this brother had Jordan Love and could barely score 7 points. That's what I remember. Okay? So I don't want to hear all of this. I don't want Gutekunst and all of those boys. They did what they did, formulating the roster. Defense upgraded. You got 2 running backs, okay? You got Devontae Adams and Cobb and all of these boys. And because Aaron Rodgers was out, you couldn't score more than 7 points. But we want to talk about him like he the second coming of Lombardi. Hell no. I ain't trying to hear it. I want to see.
To your point, they're second worst over the cap with that $48 million. Only the Saints are worse. And all I know is this is reminding me of when I was at NFL Network, and every day we would talk about Brett Favre. Is he retiring? Is he unretiring? This, that. So talk to me when it's fact, because a lot of fiction's happening right now, folks. When we come back here on First Take, clock is ticking, but there is still time. Can LeBron catch MJ as the GOAT? Shocker, we don't see eye to eye on this one. Monica McNutt will be in the building, who over All-Star Weekend recounted his Cavs' 3-1 comeback over the Warriors in the 2016 finals, telling TNT, at that moment, I was like, I'm the greatest basketball people have ever seen in all facets. I can play the 1 through the 5. I can guard 1 through 5. I did something that's never been done in the history of the sport. And I have a friend. And she's very beautiful and intelligent. And I'm happy because I'm a little cranky today because my allergies are bad and Stephen A's in Miami. And I got my girl Monica here now, so I can smile. I'll start with you here, Monica. Is there anything that LeBron can do to catch MJ?
There is, Molly. And good morning, Stephen A. from Miami.
Hey.
And it
Hey.
Miami.
It is to win those 2 more titles. I know that this might seem like an antiquated argument, but to me, in a sport where the focus is still team success, and quite honestly, if LeBron is candid, everything that he has done at this point in his career is about chasing those rings. I think the rings still matter. And our colleagues on ESPN.com, in the rankings, they used a word that I think is very important, Stephen A. They said that Michael Jordan, they used the word blueprint, and I can't remember if they used it with LeBron or MJ, but we know that MJ in many ways was the blueprint in terms of empowering guys to become a global brand and phenomenon as LeBron has done. And so to me, while that basketball observation that LeBron made about himself, although we all compliment ourselves, and I don't know if every compliment you give yourself should always count. But anyway, while the observation he made about his versatility and what he did versus the Warriors is spot on, I still lean Michael Jordan. And whatever comes with that, bring it. I'm still going with MJ as the GOAT, and LeBron's got to get those rings.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, not everybody compliments themselves. I mean, I wouldn't know anything.
You compliment yourself. Oh my, this is where we are left.
What?
I just
Because
think
Wait, everyone, hold on. Let's take a moment of silence.
Please, Molly, get us together.
Let's take a moment of silence right now.
Get us together.
Okay. Let's just
right.
pause. Okay, good. Okay, I'm ready to carry on now. Are you ready, Monica?
Okay, come on.
Okay, I'm
just
good.
saying, point number 2, for somebody that's got nasal issues, it didn't sound like that to me just a second ago from Molly. That's number 2.
Oh my goodness,
And number
please,
three-
you're not
and number
next
three-
to me.
And number 3, Monica McNutt, a.k.a. Eminem. The outfit is slamming. I think it's made for Miami personally, but you're not here. I just want to point that out. I just want to point that out. I just want to point that out. I just think it's important.
50. You know what I say to him? He's
I just think
50.
these things are important.
He's 50 going on 5.
That is exactly
Fact.
right.
Am I right? Or am I right or am I right?
Nailed it.
He's like, he's really just like a grown big little kid.
There's a baby Stephen A. that tries to sit up there and say that himself. That you can see him on Stephen A.'s World or ESPN Plus, but that's neither here nor there. Here's the deal, y'all. Monica McNutt, LeBron ain't catching MJ. First of all, MJ will never lose 6 NBA titles. 6 NBA finals. This is just not happening. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, LeBron ain't winning 2 more chips. Is he joining Phoenix? Is he joining Golden State? Is he joining Brooklyn? Is he joining Milwaukee or Miami? Maybe Cleveland. I mean, maybe. But I don't think that's happening. He's still under contract through next season. Look, the reality of the situation is, and I don't say this facetiously, and I don't say this as an insult, mad respect, but he seems more preoccupied with making sure his son gets in the NBA than he is in winning chips. I mean, if we're going to call it, let's call it. And I don't blame him because he's doing all he can, but he's smart enough to know he don't have help in L.A., okay? So, excuse me, that's just what it is. Now let's get to the nitty-gritty of all of this, all right?
Okay.
When we talk about LeBron James, we have to understand we have to take the losses into consideration, just like I just finished explaining to Mr. J.J. Redick. We don't get to ignore Dallas when you couldn't produce in the 4th quarter and while you were being guarded by Jason Terry. We can't forget that, okay? We can't forget when KD arrived in Golden State and you beat Boston in the conference finals and you literally stood on the court of TD Bank Garden and gave a damn concession speech before the game, before the next series, the finals even started. I just don't want to think about that right now. I'm just trying to enjoy this. I don't even want to put myself through that kind of stress. Really? Really? I mean, that's what happened, okay? And I think about also the road that was traveled, and I'm going to say this again. Go back and watch the way the NBA game was played and what Jordan had to go through to get to where he got. Listen, we could bring up that he beat Magic his first go round, and he beat Portland with Drexler and the crew the second go round, and he beat Barkley and Marley and Kevin Johnson, who people don't mention enough of, and how lethal he was the third go round. And then he went away from the game and came back, and he beat Malone and Stockton not once but twice. And in the midst of all of that, he also beat the glove, Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. Not Sean Klump, Sean Kemp. Okay, when that brother showed up and how he could ball, we forget all of that stuff, okay? And then we got to take into account the road that you had to travel prior to that. Philadelphia 76ers 4-5-4 with Moses Malone. Even though that was 83, he wasn't even in the league then. I'm just talking about how formidable Philadelphia was. Boston, and with Bird and McHale and Parrish and all of those brothers. Magic Johnson and the Showtime crew with Kareem and Worthy and everybody else. The Bad Boy Pistons on the come up with Isaiah and Dumas with Lambert and John Sally and Mahorn and Dantley and all of these brothers. Let me tell you something. With the game being called in a fashion that was far more physical, far more arduous, okay? Far more taxing physically on the body and what have you. Now, that might not have affected LeBron James at 260 pounds. He would have dished out more than he could take because people keep forgetting how powerful and lethal and what a locomotive that dude is. But what about the pieces around him? When you think about the Kyrie Irvings, the Kevin Loves, the D Wades, the Chris Boshes of the world, and others, as physical as the game was, remember, they all had injury history, okay? They all had a history of injuries. So how would they have endured? He might have did his thing, but the help around him might have been a bit too much. Physically, I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the skills, because the skills were sublime. I'm talking about physically. So I take all of those things into consideration. And to me, the road to prosperity that Jordan had to travel, courtesy of the league, how the game was played back then, and what have you, to me, was more arduous, more difficult than what LeBron had to go through. And that's without bringing up all the other stuff that I already brought up any damn way.
Now, I'm inclined to agree with you on that, Stephen A., but I want to shout out Izzy Gutierrez. Last night, we had this conversation in an ESPN Twitter space last night, and he posed a question, though, when it comes to this. Are we talking about the single greatest player in this conversation, or are we talking about the totality of their careers, which I'm not going to lie, had me like, hold on, let me figure out where I am in that. Because
I'm not thinking either.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
thinking either.
Okay.
I'm thinking, how about tell Izzy this? All right, maybe I'll tell him myself. I am in Miami. Okay, I am in Miami.
Him yourself.
All right. I mean, this way he rolls around here, even though we roll in different circles. The point that I'm trying to make to you is this. When you look at that, how about winner? How about winner? In other words, as an individual talent, we see the multitude, the dimensions of LeBron James' game, and that wasn't necessarily Jordan, even though Jordan was an elite defender and an elite scorer and a finisher. We can bring intimidation factor. J.J. Redick will make the argument that LeBron was just obviously as intimidating, if not, just as intimidating as Jordan. We can debate all of these things. What we cannot debate is the difference in wins. Now, we look at Jordan, in the moment, he's unblemished. Unblemished in the moment. In the moment, LeBron has several blemishes. Yeah. Several.
But that's how you started.
He's a four-time champion.
Needs 2 more rings.
Here's the greatest. Here's the greatest compliment I could give LeBron James.
Okay.
This is the greatest compliment. Now they talked about people getting the Hall of Fame, but there's different levels and there's different rooms. LeBron is in the same room as Jordan. He ain't on a different floor. He ain't in a different room. He's right in there with Michael Jordan and the all-time. He's right in there with Kareem. Yep. He's right in there with Russell. He's right in there with Jordan. He's right in there with Kobe.
Got it.
Shaq. They're in the same room.
Yep. And you know what, Stephen A.? They're not in the standard queen. They're in the presidential suite. And they got the ocean, and they got the city view, and they got the nice tub and the robe, living their best life.
I'm glad you brought that.
Oh, no, I teed this up.
What's
Molly,
Stephen A.?
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
But I will make a slight correction for this particular trip. It was a quick one. I didn't necessarily need the presidential suite, but I'll get that next time.
Oh, okay. Good. Because I don't want to throw up a little bit in my mouth right now. I got enough going on, all right? Oh, my goodness. I need to get paid.